Raccontaci cosa è successo.
Again, do you think I'm lying to you?
Raccontaci cosa è successo.
Again. From the beginning, is that it? Leave nothing out, is that it? Have I left something out? What do you want me to say? All right, tell you what happened. The day I met him and all the rest. You never want to hear about where I came from, what my life was like. I was 19 years old. Did you know that? 19. No, that's not important. My life's not important. Only him, only the prisoner. Fine, let's do it again. When they brought him to us, he was...
Quando? Chi l'ha portato?
This mob, a mob of filthy little foreigners. I know, it was their country. Fine. I'd only been there for 5 months. They were strange little people, dark-skinned and dirty, always chattering their strange words. An ugly language, sounds like coughing up phlegm. Whenever we were on patrol, they would stare at us, just stare and chatter, curses for us and our children and our children's children. The old men would squat in the dust, reading from black books and arguing with each other, with themselves if nobody was around. The women, a few of them were beauties. I'll be honest, there was some sport there. We had a game, the whole army did. How many nationalities you could bet? Well, I was 19 years old. I played the game. One of the officers, the rumor was he had 40 nations. If you count some of the northern tribes as independent states. I wasn't in that league. But one woman, this one that I met in the marketplace,
Raccontaci del prigioniero.
Nah, that's right. My life isn't important. I'd like something to drink. Could I have something to drink?
Raccontaci del prigioniero.
A little water. No? All right, the prisoner. He looked just like them, like one of the mob. Filthy. I doubt he ever even had a bath. His hair all in tangles and his clothes. No, you couldn't even call them clothes. Rags. I thought he was a beggar at first. The beggar they caught stealing fish in the marketplace. He was bleeding from the mouth and the nose. He'd already had a rough time of it. And flies all over him. You never saw so many flies on a man.
Perché l'hanno portato da voi?
They said he was a revolutionary. They said he wanted to be king. So he wasn't a beggar, he was a madman. Or both, a beggar and a madman. But these people, they were ready to cut him open right there. A few of their leaders were there, the chiefs, whatever you call them. They thought they were important, these chiefs. They met the governor 2 or 3 times. They thought they had real power. But it was a joke. That's what the governor was there for, to appease these little thieving tribes. You keep the chiefs happy, give them some money, invite them to a few official receptions, then the chiefs take care of the problems. Someone in their neighborhood's not paying taxes, the chief tells us about it. Some kids want to be heroes, they want to ambush a few soldiers. The chief finds out, he tells us. Traitors come cheap in that country. Brothers and sisters informing on each other for pocket change. So that's what this was. They said this beggar, this madman, they said he was a revolutionary. They said he was telling people not to pay taxes. Why can't you give me water? What does it matter now?
Cosa ha detto il prigioniero?
He didn't say a word. I was on guard duty that week, guarding the governor's mansion. Soft duty, easy work, good food. One of my superiors owed me money from a dice game. We were friends, so he gave me the rotation. Usually the older guys got it, but like I said, we were friends. He had the worst luck of any man I ever met. My superior, I mean. I felt bad sometimes taking his money, but he never got angry. He just laughed and drank more wine, throw the dice. He had his own girl, one of them. Lovely, the darkest eyes. All she did was sit there, knitting, while he drank and threw the dice. She was beautiful. He never went whoring, never. Maybe he loved her. The young ones were often very pretty, but the old women, the crones, you've never seen such fiends. Or maybe you have.
Cosa avete fatto del prigioniero?
Right, the prisoner. The story is always about the prisoner. What did we do with him? We sent word to the governor that we had a situation. There were hundreds of them, a real mob, and angry. They were screaming for blood. I figured this madman, whatever he'd done, it must have been more than not wanting to pay taxes. None of them wanted to pay taxes. They'd grin and bob their heads when the collector came around, but then they'd say they'd lost everything in a fire, or thieves stole everything. I know, believe me. My first 3 months in that city, I went around with a collector. They always had an escort. Otherwise, we'd find them the next day with their throats slashed. One time we went into the house of a rich man. Rich for them, I mean. He had servants and silver dishes, and his wife wore diamonds. And sure enough, the second we walk in, he rushes up to the collector. I'm selling the house, he says. I'm bankrupt. I've been swindled. I've lost everything. The tax collector laughed at him. Your wife's necklace must be worth something. The rich man dragged her over to us. She was terrified. I think she thought she was going to be the tax. Fake, said the rich man. Look at them. They're glass. Well, so none of us knew diamonds from glass.
Come si è comportato il prigioniero mentre aspettavate?
He didn't say a word. These people, his people, they were screaming at him, calling him names, and he just stood there and took it. I knew there was something wrong with him. The flies were out. The flies are always out in that town, especially in the spring, and these flies would land on his lips, on his hands, all over him. Flies buzzing around his head, and he never seemed to notice. It made me itch watching these flies crawl over his skin. He smelled like dung. The flies must have loved him for that. So like I said, we had a real situation. The whole country, things had been tense for a while. Riots sparking up here and there. Nothing but brush fire, nothing too dangerous yet, but the generals back home, they always get nervous. The philosophy is, if you let the little things go, the vandals, the backstreet agitators, soon enough the big things will come. So anyone accused of inciting revolution, you understand, it was taken very seriously. Plus, this was a hectic time of year, one of their religious days. These people, every other day is a holiday. Anyway, the governor wanted to put on a good show to prove he really listened to these chiefs. So he came out with his whole entourage. And one of the chiefs, their spokesman, I guess he began accusing the madman. This man is a subversive, he said. He opposes payment of taxes. He claims to be a king. The governor just smiled when he heard this. He looked at the madman, this wreck of a man in torn rags, smelling like dung, his face all crusted with dry blood, flies buzzing in his hair, and the governor winked at us. He was a good man, the governor, a great sense of humor. So he asked the madman, "Are you a king?" And all of us, the soldiers, all of us started laughing. And the madman looked the governor in the eye and said, "I am." So the chiefs were furious. "He's a rebel," they shouted. "He wants to overthrow the government." But the governor couldn't take it seriously. This man had been sleeping in the streets, in the goat pastures. The idea of him overthrowing the government, it was ridiculous. So the governor said, "This man is harmless, let him go." But the chiefs kept at it. "He's a subversive," said their spokesman. "He gathers crowds and tells them to defy your authority. He wants to be king." "According to our friend," said the governor, "he's already a king." But the spokesman kept at it. He said, "If this man incites an uprising and you did nothing to prevent it, the leaders in your own country would not be happy." That got the governor thinking. He was great fun, and you could tell he thought this madman was entertaining, but still, he was a politician. "All right," he said. He turned to the madman. "You hear these accusations. What do you say for yourself?" But the madman said nothing. The governor looked at us. He just shrugged. It was like he was saying, "What are you going to do?" And he ordered the madman flogged. So we did. And then...